Hello, this is Paul Dykowitz. I'm the editor of Eagle Daily Investor. I'm here today at the U.S. EXIM Bank with the EXIM Bank chairman, Fred Hochberg. This is a very interesting time for the EXIM Bank. The bank needs to be reauthorized by May 31st. There's been a controversy about whether that should be done, or if it is done, how it exactly should be done. Chairman Hochberg, you're probably in the job at the most interesting time during the agency's 80-year history. How does it feel to be in the hot seat, and what are you doing right now to save your agency?
Well, the best part about being in the hot seat is the number of jobs we create. And this is an unprecedented time for U.S. exports. Exports are up. President Obama said, let's double them in 5 years. We're over 2 years in, almost at the halfway mark, and we're running at a rate, actually a faster rate, to double exports in 5 years. So exports are on the rise, which means we're actually creating more jobs from exporting than any other time in our history. So this is a very exciting time to be helping American companies hit and be able to take advantage of global markets.
Now, when you talk about exports nearly doubling, are we talking about the exports generated from EXIM Bank specifically? What are we exactly talking about there?
Well, nationwide, exports are on track to double and have done so for the last 26 months. In fact, exports now total goods, services, and commodities about $2 trillion, an all-time high. They're up about a third since 2009. We're actually growing even a faster rate. Since President Obama was elected in 2008, EXIM financing of exports has more than doubled. So we're actually moving at a much quicker rate, partly, Paul, because financial markets are still somewhat weak and fractured. The banking system is not where we need it to be. So we've been called to action much more so than we have in the past.
In terms of the U.S. dollar, it had been devalued quite a bit. That usually helps exports for whatever country has a devaluation. Is that part of the picture, the devaluation of the dollar? Now that the dollar seems to be firming a bit, especially in relation to the euro, is that going to hurt U.S. exports?
I like my job, and the one thing I don't do is talk about the value of the dollar. I leave that to others like Secretary Geithner. But you know, products are sold based on price, value, quality, deliverability, reliability, service, and the value of the dollar is one factor, but I think it can get overstated.
We also have competition with other EXIM banks around the world. Many countries have their own in Europe. China, for example, has it. Although China doesn't operate its EXIM bank necessarily under the same rules that European and the U.S. EXIM Bank operate. What's been your challenge in terms of working in an environment where China doesn't play by the same rules in its financing of its own companies?
Well, Paul, that's an important point. We have a number of countries, China largely, but Brazil as well, India some extent as well. So three sort of major growing economies that operate outside of what is called a framework, an international framework. The framework has been in effect for about 35 years, called by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD. And that sets how long the loans can be and what the fees are attached to each loan. China is not a party to it. Brazil is not a party. India is not a party. And we've been working diligently from President Obama and every level of the government and our European allies to bring those countries into alignment. We really want products and services to compete on their own merits, not because somebody offers cut-rate financing that makes their products appear a better deal than maybe they really are.
What are your efforts right now to get that done? I imagine you're making some inroads. If you're actually making progress, where does that stand?
Two places. One, Brazil, for example, is a party to the OECD, the Understanding on Aircraft, so that's a step in the right direction. Secondly, when Vice President Xi was here in February, he and President Obama agreed that the two countries, the United States and China, would work towards an agreement to be in effect by 2014. We've already had a team of experts here from the bank go over to China and are working on that. I'll be visiting China in May to do more follow-up on that. So that's already in place. But we're not going to wait for that. When we see examples, Paul, of China or any country providing cut-rate financing that in some way is advantaging their export over U.S. export, if we get good evidence of that, we will step in and provide offsetting or matching financing. We did that on a transaction in Pakistan That transaction still hasn't closed, but we made it clear to the Pakistani Rail Authority we have already given them a proposal to match Chinese financing. They can make the decision. Do they want GE or Caterpillar locomotives or Chinese locomotives, but not be swayed because one country offered better financing terms than the other.